Hi, Super Dan here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and present a video that I shot a number of years ago for a camp that Dieter Knudel put on. And this particular segment is what I call the art of movement. Now, one of the things that Professor Remy stressed when I first started training with him back in 1980 was a lot of angular movement, a lot of motion. And as he developed more and more and started doing more of the mid-range work, the art of stepping or the art of movement fell a little bit out of practice, a little bit out of favor. So what I want to do is I want to present something that is, to me, is very, very important. It's the other side of the coin of either the stationary or small movement, but this is the art of movement, the art of motion. Enjoy.
Now we're going to go on to the art of movement. There are two primary reasons that I like to use movement, and first is what I call repositioning the target. Now, if I'm standing here, and let's say Tom delivers a #1 strike to the head, what most people do is they'll look at this and they'll go, here it comes, and oh geez, I've got to get out of the way. Now, when you look at it from that particular viewpoint, that's a very defensive viewpoint. That's not a bad viewpoint, but it's a little bit more of an effect. I've got to react, oh my goodness, here it comes. How I like to look at it is, okay, here's the target, here's this setup, I think I'll just go over here and perhaps do my own strike. Over here was wonderful, I think over here might be better, he moves, bang, and so forth. So instead of the concept of, I am getting out of the way of this, it's a mental viewpoint, but I like the idea of, well, I will go over here because I'm in a better position. Which brings us to the second point of motion. If he is oriented in this fashion or whatever fashion, he could be in a stand-up position, he could be here in a serrata position, ready to strike or whatever. The thing is, he's oriented to me. If he does his strike, I move. Now, his orientation is slightly different. While the way that I moved, I am already oriented to him so that I can affect any kind of strikes that I do. It'd be the same type of thing if I blocked and then moved, he strikes you stuff. Now I'm over here, notice I'm in a position where I can strike, I can hit, I can follow up. However, he's in a position where he needs to readjust in some fashion in order to strike. Those are the two things that I like about repositioning, about moving and so forth. There are a number of drills that we did in the 80s. This first one actually is not one of the ones that Professor Remy taught me, but it's the very first motion drill that I teach my students. And it's what I call a largo or long distance flow. Back up just a little bit. Now the largo mono flow basically goes like this. He steps in, he strikes, I step out of range, I execute a counter strike on his hand, I step into him, he steps back, and it's basically this give and take, this going back and forth here. When I'm doing this, I am stroking his hand. Now you notice that I've got dark sticks here. These are actually rubber covered sticks so that if I want to, I can hit his hand, he can hit my hand. I can step off to the side and angle, step back in. We go here. If he shifts and he's going to come at me with a backhand, I can go off to this side and we continue back and forth. The idea is that I'm going long, I'm stepping out of the way, I've got my counter strike here, I step in, perhaps I retreat, advance, retreat, advance, and so forth, or I've got my backwards cross step, forwards, down, and so forth. This is the first flow drill. We just go back and forth. We cut at each other's hands. The thing about using these type of canes, like I said, is he strikes, I can back up and hit him. I strike, he backs up and hits me, and he strikes. So you can get the feel of striking instead of just drawing, because as you'll note when we get into the power development section, I talk about this being an impact weapon. So With this style of cane, you can actually create an impact. Now, the first drill that I was taught by Remy Presses as far as a flow drill was what we call the basic flow. The concept here is the person strikes down at you with the number 12, you step sideways, you pass, you cut, the guy strikes down with the number 12 again, you step sideways, you pass, you cut, the person strikes down at the hip, you drop this way and cut, the person strikes at the other hip, you would drop and you would cut. One side, other side, drop step, one side, other side, drop step, drop step. We did this drill quite often. With Tom striking at me, he strikes 12. Now you notice, I'm now off to the side, like I demonstrated in the very first part of repositioning the target. He does the 12 again. Here I am, he strikes into the hip, I drop back, I come over the top and I slap this down as I cut, and he does the same thing, and he's right back to 12, here, 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 and here, here, here. Notice, I've got this. If I had a blade, no problem, I'd cut him. Otherwise, when I strike, I'm looking at hitting with this end of the stick here. Bang, I hit. Bang, I hit. Same thing. I've got to strike here. Bang, I hit. Bang, I hit. This is the basic flow drill. Here, 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 here. Now, we go back and forth. Now it's my turn. He would go off to the side, he cuts, and then he cuts, and he goes here, and he goes here, and we've got his strike. Here, 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 and here. The next particular drill, which dealt with a lot of stepping, is the 6 count. Now the 6 count, a lot of people, they'll do it, they'll stand still. Bang, 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 bang. And you get going quite fast this way, but the thing is that, again, there's no stepping development. Now I know that the stand still, especially for the toppy, I strike, he counters, I go here, and I have the lock, etc. is all based on a lot of standing still. With the original 6 count, he strikes. When he strikes, I go off to the side. When I come in to strike at him, he backs up. Now, he cuts over the top, I angle. I strike, now notice he went to the side, he strikes, I do what's called a spin off, which means I back up and I turn around this way. I step in at him, there he goes, I've got to come way over here, and. Now when you do this, if you do this correctly, you notice how I just made a full circle around him because of the stepping. I've got my side step to the right, strike here. I've got my either back step, or I can step off at an angle. I strike, I come down, I'm here, I'm off to my right again, here, off to my right, back step, to my right, here, to my right, here, and so forth. If you're looking at this, not only as a striking art, but as a cutting art, then you wouldn't be standing here going here, because maybe the guy draws through, cuts you, you see. If he had a blade, then your idea is zip here. Or I cut here, he comes down, bang. There's the hand here. I I draw this right across his arm in here, then he would cut my arm, and then same thing here. It would be that way if I had a cutting tool. But right now, for the sake of the drill, we're going stick on stick. Again, he has his number 1. I cut through here. Notice I went to my right. There we are. I move again. I strike. He went to his right. So I go back, in, and so forth. Now, the last variation of this is a drill that we use in the school, which is I call the Largo 6 count. This is where you combine the Largo flow drill, the back and forth, along with the 6 count template. Now, when you do this, there's only one person that's actually executing the Largo. It would be like when he strikes, instead of me going here and bang, he strikes, I get way out here, and then I've got my 4 here. I'm way off to the side here. Here, I step way back, and here, and this, you notice, I end up doing more than one step. And notice, while I'm doing this, I'm actually caressing his arm. And so forth. The art of movement. A lot of this has to do with stepping. A lot of this has to do with repositioning the target. One of the most interesting things I noticed about Professor Praces is that when I first met him, as you saw in the little clip at the beginning of this segment, a lot of motion, a lot of stepping, etc. As he got older, some people were saying, well, he's not moving so much because he's older. I beg to differ. Where before, perhaps he may have needed this much action. As he got older, he has the same positioning with much more compact motion. This is my theory. This is what I've seen with a number of existing masters now. This is the type of development that I teach in my school. You go from, let's say, a big modern artist to more compact, and small. Enjoy.